I mean, when everybody was stuck in their homes, everybody was taking all different classes. I know Salesforce certification shot through the roof. Everybody's trying to upskill themselves. My recommendation is don't stop that, because the world is just changing, and it's changing faster than ever before. You need to be upskilled, and you need to be where the trends are, where the use cases are, and you need to be able to know what products are out there to be at the top.
As it stands right now, automation and infrastructure investment, it always pays off. So why do companies put it off? Today on IT Visionaries, we're getting the answers from Jenny Koehler, Strategic Growth and Business Development Leader at PwC, and Patty Cheung, VP of Alliances and Channels Americas at MuleSoft. So PwC is a leading consulting company that specializes in digital business. You already know that. MuleSoft is the world's #1 integration platform, and its goal is to automate systems and empower customers and deliver a connected and fast experience. Jenny and Patty discuss with us today the importance of modernizing infrastructure, investing in modern technologies, and upskilling to promote business growth. Tune in to listen to their experiences in digital business and how they want to help others reach peak potential in the online era. IT Visionaries is powered by Salesforce Platform and Dreamforce. Did you know all of the very best Dreamforce sessions are available free on salesforce.com/plus? We recommend watching the Platform and MuleSoft keynote to get the down low on doing more with less and increasing efficiencies with automation. Welcome everyone to another episode of IT Visionaries, and today we have two ladies joining us today. Jenny Koehler, she is the Strategic Growth and Business Development Leader at PwC, and Patty Cheung, she's VP of Alliances and Channels Americas at MuleSoft. Jenny, Patty, welcome to the show.
Hi, Albert.
Hi, Albert. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, listen, for those of you, you might remember Jenny from earlier. She's been on IT Visionaries before talking about how she's helping different clients move to the cloud and going through digital transformations. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about digital consultancy. For those who don't know what we'll start with Jenny, since you've been on the show before. For those who don't know what PwC is, I think everybody knows, but maybe you don't. We'll make sure we know what PwC does. Jenny, can you tell us about PwC? And then Patty, definitely tell us a little bit about MuleSoft.
It's good to be back with you. So PwC, to keep it very simple, it's one of the world's largest professional services firm. We've got a heritage part of our business, which was probably what a lot of people know us as, which is, audit and tax. And then we've got a, quite sizable, actually, consulting business. I come from that part of our business, and I'm responsible for leading, as you did say, our business development and strategic growth, which means a lot of different things for us, but it could mean partnerships, it could mean outright acquisitions. But really, it's against the backdrop of our mission right now, which is to build trust in society and drive sustained outcomes for our clients. And so when you and I last spoke, Albert, at that time, I was leading our cloud and digital business. And as a practitioner, that's the kind of work I do for our clients. But because we are on a mission to grow and to keep delivering even better things and outcomes for our clients, I'm focusing a little bit on this to help us on that mission.
And Patty, if you don't mind, share a little bit about MuleSoft. We've had different MuleSoft team members on the show before, but in case anyone didn't hear the first time, tell us what MuleSoft is and what it does and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So MuleSoft is the world's #1 integration platform. Our goal is to help our customers automate everything and empower everyone. But we deliver end-to-end automation and orchestration across all of your systems to deliver that connected customer experience faster than ever before. So partnering together with PwC, we're really able to create and deliver those art of the possibles for our customers together.
And the way I describe MuleSoft to anyone out there listening, if you haven't heard one of my episodes with MuleSoft guests before, is MuleSoft connects the unconnectable. So if you're talking about data and systems that don't have a designated API to move that data between those systems, MuleSoft comes in and says, now you do. And it sounds like PwC is the group that can implement it, because whenever I think about connecting the unconnectable, well, that sounds hard. So I need some help.
And it's not just about the connections anymore. It's all about how do you connect and how do you automate as well.
Exactly. And also the why. Like, why do I need to do it? And what should I connect in order to bring these experiences together? So let's start there. Systematically, obviously, there's the infrastructure that makes this possible, but there's also the decision-making that goes into making this possible, because I know that most customers start with a problem. Like, hey, I want to solve this problem. They don't know how to get there. So we'll start with you, Jenny. Give us an idea. Like, tell us what it means to be in this space now, because I have a feeling customers are bringing bigger problems all the time, or bigger challenges they want solved, things that they think are going to improve the customer experience for the greater of all customers, but they just don't know how to get there. Give us an idea of what's happening in the space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you start with this question, Albert. It's our ethos as a consultancy is we'd like to tackle the problem, and the harder the better, I guess you could say. But I think the reality, I mean, we all know it. We're kind of normalizing out of a pandemic. I think we've seen what it accelerated in the world. I think our clients, any organization right now has got stakeholder expectations that have never been as high as they've been, or as volatile in some cases as they've ever been. And then you've got a consumerism mindset that has shifted in such a way that, every customer wants to be reached differently. They want things quicker. They want different channels. They want more digital, sometimes less human interaction. And so, I think companies right now, it's a great responsibility that they have to navigate that, but those challenges and opportunities have never been, higher or more present. So, the business problems that come from that, or the business things that need to be solved, that's what gets us up every day and gets us excited. We have a fundamental belief that it will take a digital wiring and underpinning to be able to do that. That's just the reality for any company right now. And so that then spits off a slew of other challenges and complexities that need to be addressed. And so, it gets to how to that degree of connectedness of data and connectedness of systems, and ultimately for the ultimate purpose of connecting more intimately with a customer base. I think this is an exciting time to be in the field of business. I think anybody running a business right now is wrestling with the weight of a lot of different questions from a lot of different places. And then more importantly, how to make it happen and how to make it happen very fast.
When those requests are coming in, and of course, solutions are being developed, Patty, give us an idea of what it means for a company like MuleSoft in regards to what your team is now responsible for developing, supporting, potentially implementing in regards to these systems. Because I always say this, if you want, a tool to connect to another tool to deliver information between two tools and they've got APIs, it's not a problem, right? It's typically not a problem, but that's not how legacy companies are built and legacy technologies are built. Give us an idea of what's happening to your side of the equation where you're responsible for the development, the architecture, the uptime, implementation, all these things on the technical level.
Yeah, and I think this is where teaming together really does help, because as Jenny was saying, we're coming out of the pandemic, but we're all still facing tons of headwinds. Labor shortages, supply chain disruption, global inflation. We might be coming out of the pandemic. We still have energy crisis, humanitarian crisis that are going on. And like she said, ultimately, customers don't really care what your struggles are. And I think even on your past podcast, you talk about airline A and airline B, right? And which one has best customer service. Every business is being compared to the next, and customers are deciding where they receive the best customer experience. Customers want you to know who they are and treat them uniquely at every interaction. And I think this is where MuleSoft, along with PwC, how do we really come together to help our customers navigate this new world? And even when we go and deliver and connect these experiences, long-term plans are definitely necessary, but the future is becoming harder to predict every day. The next day, you don't know what's going to happen. And there's so many vectors of change that, the organizations that do thrive in the digital economy are the ones that will adapt to these changes the fastest. And that's where we're really working with. That's why I kind of brought up automation as well. The focus on growth with efficiency and sustainability, focus on productivity, the solutions that automate processes so they can do more with less. We're all together, MuleSoft and PwC, helping our customers meet those customer expectations, helping them enable their digital transformations, and really adopting new operating models to reduce and rationalize their operating costs. And those are the ones that are going to survive and also capture those customers that care about that every interaction that's out there.
That's phenomenal. I always think of things on the consumer level first. I know I'm not on the consultancy side anymore, but I always think for myself, what does that mean for me, right? Because I always want better, faster service. I think everyone agrees with that. And Patty, your point about comparing businesses, it's actually gotten to the point where, and maybe it's always been there, but it's clearly there now, which is people also compare industries. They don't even try to say like, oh, airline A, airline B. They're like airline A to Amazon. You know what I mean? Like they're saying this is the best of breed service. I want services like that here in this industry as well. Do you have any stories that you could share that kind of demonstrate this rapid change and the outcomes that have happened because of it? Because I think for most of us, we all learn best through stories, understanding exactly what this industry looked like before you implemented this, then it looks like this on the other side. I'd love to hear any examples you have of like that rapid change and implementation of services, because I remember a time when I was an ERP consultant. Let me tell you something, making a change took years. Like it took forever, right? And it was a pain. And this is just 2006 and 2007. Give us an idea what's happening now.
I actually think the pandemic is what really forced a lot of change happen. And even those that were kind of really legacy, I'll give you a perfect example on, when the pandemic started, the SBA put out the PPP loan to help small businesses out there to take out loans. None of the banks, whether you were a small local credit union or your big, large enterprise, behemoth banks out there, were able to actually take applications, kind of qualify those applications and be able to distribute the loans. And I've never learned so much about loan processing before, but working with partners like PwC, we were able to actually create a framework, start delivering those to these credit unions. So these are customers, their doors are shut. How do we actually go get these small businesses to apply with us to go get those loans? While they didn't have a digital infrastructure, they were forced to very quickly make that rapid change so that they can go do this. And in the meantime, SBA is like, all right, this week we're launching, $3 billion. Next, 2 weeks later, it was like another 1.5 billion. It's like, okay, they keep releasing money, but there was no way to get that money out to the businesses. Consultancies like PwC, along with MuleSoft, had to come together to help these companies actually be able to leverage this program.
Okay, I got a story about that. So Mission's a small business. We were directly impacted by it. We did apply for PPP. Let me tell you something. People were freaking out because their bank didn't have a way to apply. And you would hear on the news, oh, this much has been applied for already. A number significantly greater than the allocation. And you were stuck. Like, we were literally stuck. So I won't name our bank, but they were one of the last to have a portal for it. I'll tell you that much, because I could see it and feel it with other business owners, because they were like, oh, I got mine through. I'm like, what are you talking about? We don't have a place to do this. Like, it was a problem. And it definitely changed our perception of our bank. Very, like, to your point earlier, right? We changed our perception of our bank very quickly because, unfortunately, you can't apply unless you had an account with those banks. And so we didn't have an account with the ones that got the portal opened. I was like, this is a problem. Jenny, I didn't know if you had any similar stories.
I do. And so I'll just maybe pick a couple of my favorite customer kind of or consumer facing stories. And both of them are kind of very different vectors. But what you'll hear they have in common is to be able to pull it off. It requires this orchestration. I think Patty used that word, but this orchestration of a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes to make it happen. It has to, by the way, be seamless to a consumer or a customer, of course, because it's a reality of expectations. But behind the scenes, there's a whole lot of stuff that had to come together and get engineered in such a way to make it happen. We happen to believe that MuleSoft is one of those leading technologies that helps make that happen. It puts the stitching together and the wiring together in a way that facilitates the movement of data and the connection of systems and that speed. But I'll give you two examples. And this is a published case study that we have. So it's one I can actually mention the name. We were instrumental in Chipotle's online ordering system, which, Albert, I'm sure you've used before, right? We all have.
I love Chipotle.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? It's a fan favorite. We were instrumental in that. And just think about all that goes on to make that happen, right? And what it has to connect to within a company's operations to know that that's what they've got to kind of generate, and the experience has to be delivered a certain way. That's just one example of something that's a changing way a consumer wants to interact or a customer wants to interact with, in this case, Chipotle. But how do they want that experience to be? And they have a necessity for a certain kind of speed. If you're Chipotle as an operator, you need to be able to take that in and forecast what those things could be. You get a lot of data from that, perhaps what people want at certain times of the day or when peaks will be. And so you can better plan for a lot of things like your labor and your ingredients and all of that. So the rubber hits the road when you kind of make those fundamental changes in how you engage with your customers. I'll give you another example. Got to keep the name of the client confidential, but it's a large pharmaceutical company. We worked with them to help patients with diabetes find a better way to access and get their medicine. And the process before was highly manual, very paper intensive, a lot of time on the phone to be able to navigate like a treatment plan and to make sure, which as somebody on the other side of that, that's got a whole different weight than whether or not I got my burrito at Chipotle that day, right? Like it's a totally different end of a spectrum of like what it means to somebody personally and in a human level, but the experience was just such that it was just had this weight to it that made it untenable for people. And so, we kind of helped figure out for this pharmaceutical company, how do you change that entire experience of engaging with your provider to be able to get the medicine you need when you need it. And so again, same concepts of like, as soon as you engage differently with your customer or patient or whatever that vector is, there's just so much that goes into connecting. What does it mean to your operations and what does it mean to your finances? And then that has to be delivered in such a way that's seamless. The vector of growth and the consumers, they are driving so much change at companies, and the operating model changes that come with it and the channels by which we engage, it just forces a degree and a velocity of change, I think, on the technology side that's just fascinating to watch. And it's that kind of reinvention of a business and an interaction that it certainly excites us the most, but it changes the need for, say, a company and a partnership with like MuleSoft that is really kind of a hero behind the scenes to pull it off.
And I'm curious because, this is something that I personally don't have as much experience with, because I've had some enterprise accounts, but I've never worked with, when I'm back in my consulting days and software days, I never worked with a giant enterprise where I had to connect multiple systems. Most of my work was done in the marketing side, which was usually single system or big player to big player, meaning like our software connected to like Facebook or Instagram. And so we were using their APIs and we were just information trading. It was nothing like, kind of like what you said, super critical. Give us an idea of why is this so hard? Because I think a lot of small to medium-sized business operators or tech companies that service small to medium-sized companies, they might not be as familiar, because when you say it, it sounds easy. Like, oh, you want to add online ordering. Oh, okay. Isn't there like some POS system you can just plug right in? And the people just assume like, that's it. The orders show up on the, the receipt maker that produces the tickets. Or, in Patty, in your case, like it just sounds like it'd be easy to create this form. It collects it in a database. This database then moves the form onto wherever the government wants it. It sounds easy, but it's not. Well, I was hoping you could share like what are the challenges in front of a big company when they want to do something like that. I mean, we can start, Patty, with you. Like, why was it challenging to create this form? Because it sounds like it should be easy.
I think what makes it the most difficult is all the custom coding that has been happening for the last however many years that technology has existed, right? You buy the system and you do a lot of custom builds. So when you actually decide to pull one of those systems to say online processing or order management, and you try and plug something else in, the language doesn't speak to each other anymore. So I think that is why it's the beauty of MuleSoft is we are agnostic to any system. People wonder why it's so difficult. And really, we've got to stop custom coding and we've got to start thinking about long term. Like I would say the hardest part of our salespeople's jobs is telling a customer to hold on. I know you have this big project that you want to do, but let's take a step back. And what are you trying to really achieve? What is that ultimate goal you're looking for to help your company with? Right? Because you can't just look at it project by project. You really have to take a step back and look at it more holistically on what is your long-term goal and how are we going to get there? And what is the art of the possible? MuleSoft kind of becomes that central nervous system that feeds out to all those other parts of the body, parts of the organization that can help you deliver quicker. And as there's new solutions or platforms that come to market, that's when you can truly plug and play without interrupting that central nervous system. And I would say that's where a lot of our customers are going. And you kind of talked about enterprise versus SMB and mid-market. It's not really the big eating the small anymore. It really is the fast are going to eat the slow. If you want to continue to succeed, you have to move fast. And if that's one thing that anybody takes away from this podcast, I would say, think about your business, even your job, your role, your everyday life. How can I move faster and quicker, be more creative or innovative or more agile? These are the folks that are going to truly succeed into the future.
Yeah, Albert, I would add to that. I agree.
That was a little preachy, sorry.
But Patty, you're right. I mean, she said the dirty word of custom code, right? That's like caused a lot of this that needs to be unraveled. By the way, Patty, I agree with that. Like we see it day in and day out when we come in to an organization. And by the way, the world will be hybrid, right? The world will be hybrid cloud. There will be certain legacy applications that may even remain on premise, but there's just technical debt abounding, I think, in general, and a lot of it comes from custom code. I think the other thing is, particularly large enterprises, it's probably a fairly certain statement that they've grown over the years, in some cases by having to acquire, right? They've made big bets. And so then you've inherited something, right? And so in some cases that a lot of maybe the old stuff wasn't decommissioned and it just got thrown into the pile with everything else. And so it creates a degree of complexity, I think, in an environment over time, and where you're going to spend your money you've got to make strategic choices as an organization. So some of that you just may let ride for a period of time because you don't have a burning platform to get rid of it. And the last thing I'd say is I think, and we know this, we know it because we're maybe all of us wearing something on our body that's creating data, but just think about the proliferation of data as the world has gotten more connected, right? So organizations have a weight of data that they collect about their employees, about their whole entire workforce in different ways about productivity, then they've got their customers. And so there's just this proliferation of data. And I think, we believe strongly at PwC that a large part of the value of an organization is, Patty, yes, to your point about those that move fast, but it's also those that can start to create their data set as like a strategic competitive advantage. What do you learn about your customers and how do you actually harness that data in a way to make decisions differently and maybe reach a different base of customer or client or whatever they've got on the other end of their business. And so that's an asset. And there's more of that out there than ever before. So I think there's just higher degrees of volumes and complexities that, people need to figure out how to wrangle. And that's just kind of our reality. Now, the promise of cloud, of course, was once you cross the chasm into the cloud, right? Some of this compute power and the like helps with that. And then the degree of standardization that a lot of those products will necessitate maybe gets rid of some of that customization. But we are obviously in the middle of that crossing of the chasm. So it's tricky in the meantime,
You both hit on this idea of like the customization, the code layering. There's also the acquisition. I tell the story before in previous episodes. I used to work when I was an Oracle consultant. We worked with Acco Brands, which acquired another office supply company called like GBC. And I remember they wanted to maintain 2 independent Oracle instances. I was like, what? Like they literally, that was their decision. And then some of the people had cross-functional roles. So like, like accounting, you could account for GBC, you could account for ACO. They just told them, you got to do both. Like the person had to lock into 2 instances of Oracle to do this and reconcile it outside of Oracle. I was like, I don't understand what the point of this. But it just shows like the costs of merging and making these calls is got to be substantial. There's a reason why they haven't done it. We also had a guest that just came on our show that does insurance on equipment, hardware equipment. He says some of the equipment they maintain is like over 40 years old. And so you're talking about companies that like have built through acquisition. They have software on top of software, customization on top of customization, possibly old devices mixed with new devices. I'm curious in your opinion, because obviously moving to modernization is going to be good, but it's a huge cost. And Patty, you already hit the nail on it. Like the fast are going to eat the slow. At what point do you think these legacy companies are just going to be like, we have to modernize the whole stack? Software, infrastructure, it's got to all be done, and it's got to be done faster because the cost can no longer be the issue.
Yeah, I actually think that when cost becomes too high to support everything, companies all siloed, no teams are talking together, everybody's running their own projects, it's because they're all on different instances, right? A lot of people are afraid of, say, integrating that Oracle system because it takes work, it takes change, people are uncomfortable with change. But honestly, if you wait 3, 4, 5 years, that change is only going to get harder, tougher. And the quicker you do it, the more you actually benefit as coming together. Acquire this company for a reason. You want to bring those folks together and work off the same system so that everybody is speaking the same language.
Jenny, have you ever seen someone save money by waiting?
No, it generally doesn't.
Okay.
Work out that way. I mean, no.
So in your decorated
sometimes
career,
it's not like fine wine, Albert. It doesn't age well always. No. I would say this. By the way, some companies' hands will be forced, partly because of a cost-cutting measure. Maybe they've got to deal with, and you start to look at that amount of spend in IT, and you say, okay, I'm going to deal with it. Some companies' hands will be forced because the actual software vendors will put out a mandate of what they will and will not support and where they will innovate for the future. And so you're either on that train or you're not. I think the aging workforce and for certain types of like coding skills or other things will force a hand too, because like some people, the institutional knowledge sometimes it just goes away, and then you have risk, right? You just have risk. Sometimes it's a cyber threat, like will force your hand to say, okay, we can't live like this anymore. So there's all these like very practical things that I think force the hand. When we work with our clients, we kind of try to zoom out a little bit, and we say like, listen, if it's like too daunting of a thing to figure out and tackle, you do have to chunk it up. And then you got to make decisions strategically about what's worth chunking up and tackling and what's worth waiting. What's aging like a fine wine, Albert? Like, what do you let age a little bit more? And to make that strategic decision, it comes back to, I think, your company's strategy and where you derive value, which generally gets you back pretty fast to your customers, right? So, and where you want to grow. So I think the point is, like, wherever you derive your competitive advantage as an organization, that needs to be the fast thing, Patty, right? That needs to be the place where you're harnessing the data and you're making strategic decisions, because that's where you get value as an organization. I've said this before, Albert, to you on a previous, say no CFO ever says, man, I cannot wait to put in a new general ledger. Why don't they don't say that. They have to do it. They know they've got to do it. But you know what I mean? They're like, I don't get value from closing the books. I get value from maybe my FP&A function where I'm forecasting out in my business and I'm using good data to make better decisions, to make investment allocation decisions, right? So I think every function and every part of a business has a place where they derive value. Wherever that is, I think that's where you start. So if you did chunk the thing up, there's a way to do it and roadmap it out that feels a little bit more palatable and safe and maybe more cost effective. That's kind of generally how we try to break it down, and mostly those roads do lead to the customer at some point, because that's why you're in business,
The thing that you said about the technical debt and also the knowledge debt, there starts to become a gap where there's not enough people to even support the older thing, which will be a forcing function. I was reading about how this, I want to say it's the state of New Jersey, but I'll add the right state if I'm wrong, had all their systems were built on COBOL and the cost of supporting were getting astronomical. And they were asking these consultancies, why is it getting more and more expensive? Are you just milking the government? There's no, there's literally no one that knows this language anymore. And the people that do, they want a lot of money. So what are we going to do here?
Yep.
It's not taught, it's not used. No young aspiring developer is going to learn this language that's only used in just a couple places.
You're seeing it with mainframe to cloud right now. The old mainframes built on very specific languages, and that's a generation of people that have known that is going to retire, and we will have less and less of them. So you've got to cross the chasm at some point into the newer tech. That will spur a different cost profile over time, and that will spur a degree of innovation and the promise of it. But everyone's going to have a different journey to get there. It's like everything in life. For every company, it'll be a different journey for everybody.
Well, listen, now I got to ask you this question, because we at Mission always looking to improve. We're not as reliant on technology, but we're currently reviewing Jim Collins' Good to Great book. And in it, he talks about technology is not actually a differentiator that you think it is. And he says it's actually the last thing, and kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Jenny. What is the core business? How does it satisfy customers? I'd love to hear your opinion on this. And I'll use this example right now. When Netflix first offered streaming, of course, it rose to the top of the streaming ranks. It has since fallen quite a bit because that streaming technology is now available seemingly to everybody. And what I was reading this article about, Netflix's biggest problem is they don't have the content library that the others have. It used to be they were the only platform that was delivering streaming, so they could rely on other libraries and maybe some okay shows, but not super popular shows. But companies like Disney, companies like HBO Max, or Disney has now surpassed Netflix in total subs, but they have ESPN catalog, Hulu catalog. They have their own obvious animated catalog, Pixar catalog, Marvel catalog. And they said technology is flattened. It's not a differentiator in stream anymore. And therefore now it goes back to what the customers really want, is they wanted the content. And so that's just one example of technology not being a differentiator, even though it thought it was. I'm curious, do you see that? Is this speed that's happening going to continuously flatten that technology curve? Because it is available to everybody. You just got to choose to invest in it. It's going to flatten the curve and bring it back to the company's core services and products. That's going to have to be the differentiator again. So it's ebbs and flows, right? You have to invest in the technology just to be on par. But once you're on par, it goes back to your services. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. How do you encourage the investment? Because I could see someone saying well, if it's going to be the same, how do I move faster? How do you guys think about technology's role in winning these advantages? I'll start with Patty. That was a complicated question. I tend to ramble in the questions.
A little I would say the technology of streaming, it might be the same, right? It's not like you have to buy more technology to change the way you stream. But going back to my earlier comment when we said, what is the kind of number one business priority for CEOs out there. We ran a survey, 56% of them said growth. How do you focus on growth with that efficiency and sustainability? You may be the number one streaming right now. Once you fall, what happens? You got to think about ad sales, right? We're not only working with Netflix, but even others out there, streaming services, to start thinking about how do we go about ad sales, because that's actually a missed opportunity from revenue, right? What are other lines of revenue that you can start opening for your business to continue that growth that you have? And then also from a productivity front, 91% of organizations out there say they need a solution to automate processes so they can do more with less. Where can we cut costs? I hate to say this, but when you think about call centers, many of them are saying, how do we cut the people aspect? How do we go from 1,500 down to 500? The only way to do that is, how do you think about automation? And it's not just automation, this term out there now, hyper automation, right? It's not a product, it's not a thing. If you think about hyper automation for an organization, it's thinking through all the different processes and people processes and organization processes. How do you hyper automate the entire thing to find the best outcome you can get to save on cost, gain as much revenue as you can? I hope that answered your question.
Well, I don't know if my question has an answer, but I'd love to hear your opinions.
I would say, I think our perspective is there is no such thing as value creation without it being digital value creation. I think that's just the way of the world. And I think what your story is, the one you just told there about Netflix, is fascinating, because what I hear in that story also, what I anchor on, is just the pace at which the world changes, right? Like your position of strength you have today, you could feel good about that, but it will change. The pace at which companies lose value, the number of listed companies that remain, it's dwindling, right? There's a reason companies lose value. I think digital is like a muscle and a mindset. It will help you stay agile and nimble and resilient. Like that's what it will do. It will help you play defense in the worst of times against your competitors, and it will help you be nimble to innovate for the future. I think we as a firm view digital, and it's like value creation. There is no such thing without it being digital value creation in this world. I think that's just a reality, and it speaks to the pace at which things change, including the pace at which your competitive landscape can shift on you in your business very fast. And so are you in the reinvention business as a C-suite and a board of thinking about your competitive positioning? What does that look like for your industry? Where do you cross-pollinate and learn from other industries? Like that's a mindset, to be this kind of insurgent in your world, to be able to be resilient over time. And I think that's a muscle and that's a mindset more than it is anything else, more than it is like picking the right technology. It's just like it engenders this mindset of a pace of change and innovation that I think, every management team and every board ought to be worried about whether or not they have that kind of thinking and talent.
Well said. Listen, the fast is going to eat the slow. I mean, that is exactly, this is where we're going full circle right there. I didn't think of it framed that way, but that is very well framed in that both of you, right? It's the reality is like, no matter what advantages you have, the real reality is that your market is going to change. Your competition's going to change. Those who move fast are going to be able to change faster. So you're not customer centric and you can't move fast. You're probably going to lose something. You're going to lose something. Like it's very hard to stay at the top, really. This is what I'm keep hearing, which is also exciting for a lot of startups because, hey, no one's indefensible, right? Every market can be challenged. In order to move forward, also, there's a lot of, investment, technological investment, development inside, in-house. I was hoping you guys could share a little bit about this acquisition of a company called Netrovert. And I don't want to spoil it for everyone and speak for you. Jenny, there's a new acquisition, Netrovert. Give us an idea of what's going on in that space.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We did close an acquisition of a company called Netrovert. They are a company that primarily specialize, they're quite excellent in MuleSoft. And we targeted them for that reason. So MuleSoft is a leader in what it does, and that's stitching together kind of orchestrator layer.
Connecting the unconnectable. I love saying
Connecting the unconnectable. So we've enjoyed a partnership with MuleSoft over time, and Netrovert directly, we had them as a business partner of ours for about the past 3 years, so we got to know them, we worked with them together. But the bottom line is, in order to fulfill our mission to help our clients do all the things, Albert, we just spent some time talking about, we needed to bolster our capabilities so we could stay nimble and we could stay relevant. This MuleSoft capability is one of those that we felt was essential for our ability to deliver our promise to our customers, our clients. We knew Netrovert, culturally very aligned, managed to bring them in-house here. So we couldn't be more excited. And I think the promise of what we can do together is all that much greater because we have this capability. I think, Patty, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it further strengthens our signal and position to the partnership with you all. And I think what we can also collectively do in the market.
Yeah, and I mean, we keep talking about the fast eating the slow. Netrovert's actually a perfect story around that. They're a services company. They actually used to deliver only for a competitor of MuleSoft. As they continued to see where the market was going, they made the decision, let's start cross-training our people because we can't lose our customers. They're all going to MuleSoft, right? Let's start kind of building that bench of folks and those, trained and certified resources to go deliver these projects. And then they became 100% MuleSoft. They started actually delivering on behalf of our professional services team as well. So they're a tried and true, trusted delivery partner for us. And we are absolutely excited with the acquisition by PwC of this partnership because it just strengthens both PwC and Netrovert, and we're super excited to continue delivering, not only delivering strategy, but executing for our clients as well.
We had Jay Atkinson from PwC on the show a while back, and he was talking about upskilling, and he was talking about how many people need to be upskilled, not just at PwC, but everywhere around the world, PwC included. And this is one of those things that kind of plays into that, right? Because it's like you're going to also want other people to know to do this. Give us an idea, Jenny. And, Patty, I'd love to hear from you too. Like, what does acquiring this type of knowledge do for your ability to upskill your own people? Because I feel like this is exactly why you want to do something like this. It's like, hey, I need the experts to teach more people on my side as well.
I mean, for us, for sure, that's a very direct step of what we hope happens is that, we have a broader pool of folks now that can help upskill and train another generation of it. The other thing I think it does is it continues to fulfill our mission to try to, be the kind of digital consultant to our clients that we aspire to be, which is one that is constantly looking at what needs to be connected, not just in one silo and one thing we do, but the radiation effect of what you could be doing over here in one part of an organization has a connection to another place. We have the capabilities to put all that together. And so I think it reinforces what is our brand when we come in as a digital consultant to our clients, which is we are here to help connect you to your strategy, bring it to life. Doing that requires doing all this stuff digitally. P.S. we can help you connect those dots. So that's the other part of that upskilling is just that continued connection to a higher purpose of a message and a strategy for a company and what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, Jenny, Patty, it was awesome having you both on the show. Thanks for sharing what's happening in the digital consultancy world. Thanks for sharing what's happening at MuleSoft. It's mind-boggling and it's also expected, right? I always think of it this way. It's like, yeah, we know change is happening, but it's hard to conceptualize how hard it is and the rapid pace at which big companies need to move to make this happen. We talked about that Netflix example, I think, is a great one just because I was reading about it today and it just goes to show like you can go for number one to somewhere else so fast in the blink of an eye. Like next thing you know, you turn around like, I think Disney Plus has only been out for like 2 years, maybe less.
Well, the other one I was thinking about was actually Peloton. Peloton during the pandemic shot up, right? And then they were kind of number one. Everybody was going crazy. All these companies delivering, coming up with exercise bikes, and then they kind of went down. And then now they're trying to find new ways. Like they're even, I think, selling on Amazon. I think the article was Peloton is now selling on Amazon to try and let consumers kind of reach broader set of consumers out there.
I saw this crazy stat about how during the pandemic, as you suggested, Patty, like our habits change. And how digital consumerism shot through the roof. Most people, I guess, expected this type of e-commerce demand to stay. But then as the world opened up, it fell like off a cliff. And like now there's all these DTC companies that are like struggling. They are struggling. They have to diversify channels because what they thought was going to be true has turned out to be not true.
Yeah, even going back to the upskilling conversation, when everybody was stuck in their homes, everybody was taking all different classes. I know Salesforce certification shot through the roof and everybody's trying to upskill themselves. My recommendation is don't stop that because the world is just changing and it's changing faster than ever before. You need to be upskilled and you need to be where the trends are, where the use cases are, and you need to be able to know what products are out there to be at the top.
That is very, very true. I want to say thank you both for joining us today on IT Visionaries. But before you go, it is time for the Lightning Round. The Lightning Round is brought to us by Salesforce Platform, the #1 cloud platform, digital transformation for every experience. Jenny and Patty, this is where we ask you questions outside of the world of work so that we can get to know you a little better. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We started with upskilling. What's a skill that you want to learn? What are you going to invest in yourself next? Jenny?
You know what I'd like to do, Albert? I would like to be a better cook.
Yeah?
Yes. I know it's maybe not during with this topic of upskilling in this way, but I would like to up-level myself in the kitchen.
You can teach me too. I suck. Patty, how about yourself? What'd you like to learn?
With me, I am actually on a mission to become an executive coach. I've people managed for a good number of years now, and I think it's time to really kind of put those skills, get a stamp of approval and become an official executive coach.
Now I got to ask, how do you get better at that? Because like with hard skills, it's typically repetition. So like cook, if I was to learn how to cook, I could just repeat it and I would get better. It's harder to upskill in soft skills. How do you go about practicing that?
I'm learning. And I think it's all about, deeply listening. Really listening to your people or the person you're speaking to, and then taking that step back and reflecting before providing support or a response.
Jenny, what's the next industry that you want to see go through a monumental shift? You could be anything, something that you think would benefit yourself as a consumer. And you don't have to be what you think. Tell me what you want.
I'd say like transportation.
Transportation? Yeah, they have a lot of problems right now. Patty, what's an industry that you want to transform?
I don't know. This one might get me in trouble. It's not really an industry, but politics.
Fair enough.
Can we just change it all?
Yeah, mine's kind of crossed with politics myself. Is education system. We so desperately need an overhaul. It was a lot of fun having you both on the show. We're running low on time, but I loved hearing your stories of what's going on in the industry. I loved hearing your stories of what is happening. The idea that maybe I've read that before, but I don't know. But like the idea that the fast is going to eat the slow that's better than software is eating the world, because I think software is here, right? It's not eating anything. It's just part of life. But I do believe what you said there. I think the fast will eat the slow. And Jenny, I see you have a lot of work ahead of you to get these companies to go faster, because you just told me that you just did a study. You've never seen someone not moving, like save money by holding off and delaying all this transformation.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks for you both joining us today on IT Visionaries.
Thank you, Albert. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Albert.
IT Visionaries is powered by Salesforce Platform and Dreamforce. Did you know all of the very best Dreamforce sessions are available free on salesforce.com/plus? We recommend watching the Platform and MuleSoft keynote to get the down low on doing more with less and increasing efficiencies with automation.